Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with a very interesting video. We're doing the Hulkbreaker, tanky, Corki build, whatever you want to call it. Of course, getting inspiration from the Icons Global Championship. So, Corki and Lucian basically have been the two highest priority picks for the mid lane in the Icon series, and both of them rush Hulkbreaker. Now, with Lucian, he generally goes Hulkbreaker into a normal build, so it's really not too interesting there. You really just take the Hulkbreaker for really the stats and the split pushing potential. So this, in my opinion at least, it isn't too big of a change from normal Lucian. But what is a very big change is Corki. As you guys can see, you go Hulkbreaker, Black Cleaver, Divine Sunderer. So actually this is not going to necessarily be Death Dance, but anyways, what I'm trying to say is that this is a really unique Corki build, because the normal Corki build you go for is sort of like this one. And actually I'm going to be doing a updated Corki complete guide really soon, but I kind of want to rush this one out first because firstly this is a lot more novel of a Corki build, and secondly I haven't actually seen anybody cover this at all. Like, of course people have analyzed it and commentated over the Icon series, but I haven't actually seen a dedicated video on explaining how this build works and what this build is exactly. So that's what I'm really aiming to do here. But as you guys can see, kind of the fifth item is sort of a question mark for me at the moment. Like, I really think a lot of items could fit in here, but we'll get into that later. We're gonna go into an in-depth discussion on the item build, then we're gonna briefly go through the runes and the spells, because I'm gonna be going more in depth on that in the upcoming complete guide, so you guys can look forward to that when we talk about the runes. But of course we're gonna cover Demolish, which is I think pretty obvious about why you take it at this point. But yeah, so first up you go for the Hullbreaker. So what the Hullbreaker does is it gives you max health and 55 AD. So first up, the max health. Now you'll see a trend here. You get 300 max health from Hullbreaker, 350 max health from Black Cleaver, and 400 max health from Divine Sunderer. So that's a total of like 300 plus 350 plus 400, which gives you 1k 50 health, which is a whole load of extra health for Corki. So that's what really makes him tanky. He's not actually building any full-on defense items, but he's just building a lot of items that give him health. So the health is going to make him more tanky, of course. Not just armor and magic resistance. So what else does Hullbreaker do? It's quite obvious, most people know. When no allied champions are near you, you gain 10 to 50 armor / magic resistance scaling with level, and you also do 20% extra damage to structures. Additionally, your nearby large minions, those being the cannon minions and the super minions, get extra 50 to 170 armor and magic resist based on level, so they're going to get more tanky and they're going to deal double damage to structures. So obviously what this does is it allows you to split push really effectively, both with your damage on towers as well as the minion damage on towers. So next up, Black Cleaver. Now what does this do? Health, obviously, we have attack damage, we have ability haste. Of course Corki loves ability haste to spam more abilities. Excuse me. Sunder. Dealing physical damage to a champion reduces their armor for 5% for 6 seconds, stacking up to 5 times for 25% reduction. So what this does is, as you guys know, Corki's Gatling gun already shreds armor and magic resist, so using the Gatling gun you can actually apply Black Cleaver pretty easily to multiple targets who are of course in close proximity to you. Of course it doesn't quite apply to people who are far away, but with the Black Cleaver, with the Gatling gun, you can shred people really quickly, and also with like your rockets, if you're blasting AoE rockets onto people, you can also get a couple stacks of Black Cleaver onto them. And what this really does is it increases your team's damage against them. Now take note that this is a very supportive tanky Corki build. It's really meant to be played around your team. You're meant to be playing together with your team as a cohesive unit, which is why I don't quite recommend it in solo queue. But we'll get more into how it is played and why I don't quite recommend it in solo queue more in the gameplay later on. But basically Corki does 80% magic damage and 20% physical damage, so shredding their armor really doesn't help Corki himself quite a lot. So really you are really shredding armor for your team, so really this is benefiting your team a lot more than it's benefiting you. So you are mainly an AP damage dealer and you're kind of shredding their armor for your AD damage dealers. Then after that you got the Rage. Dealing physical damage grants you 20 movement speed, and kills grant 60 movement speed for 2 seconds, and you do get half of that because you're a ranged champion, so it's 10 and 30. This part is I can't say it's irrelevant, but it's not the real significant part of the Black Cleaver. Boots, you normally go for one of the magic, either magic resist boots or armor boots. Also, if you don't need that, you can go for the Ionian Boots of Lucili, but generally, especially on Hullbreaker Corki, you will generally always go for defensive boots. Then next up, you go for the Divine Sunder. So Divine Sunder, what it gives you, of course, health, AD, ability haste, same deal. Then you get the Spell Blade. So Corki, as you know, has 6 stacks on the ultimate, so you can cast your ultimate 6 times in addition to your basic abilities. So after you use an ability, your next attack within the next 10 seconds will deal 7% of the target's max health as physical damage. So this, of course, helps you with the shredding quite a bit. And if the target is a champion, you can deal for 3% of your health. So mainly this is really good. Number 1, it's mainly for the tankiness. Number 2, Corki can proc the Spell Blade non-stop with spamming his ultimate. So that's why Divine Sunder is really good on Corki. Then for your 4th/5th item, depending on how you want to go for it, is the GA. Now in the match, you will see, I actually went for the GA first because I couldn't quite decide what to go for as a, as the last item, but GA of course gives you the revive. So now what I'm thinking is that there are a couple of possibilities for that item. So the first possibility I'm thinking of is actually going for a, if I can find it, going for, oh, it's actually not here, that's why, it's actually going for a Void Staff. So Void Staff gives you magic, not magic, yes, actually yes, magic, kind of mincing my words here, but you get the magic penetration and ability power. So the magic penetration allows you yourself to do extra damage, but really when you think about it, the essence of this build isn't really about you building damage. It's about you split pushing, it's about you being tanky, it's not really about you doing damage. So this really isn't my first choice, but another choice I really consider going for is actually just straight up going for the Hextech Gunblade. So Hextech Gunblade gives you AD and AP, both of which you scale off of, and you also get 15% magic and physical vamp. Now of course Corki build deals mixed damage, so both of these will benefit you, dealing the magic and physical vamp, and you also get the slow on enemy. So I think that this is really one of your best options to go for, because this actually gives you that extra sustain that you might need. Now Divine Sunder gives you a little bit of sustain, but not a whole lot, so I think the Gunblade might be the way to go. Another couple of options is of course Banshee's Veil, which gives you magic resist as well as mainly the spell shield if you need it in a particular fight, or even Crystalline Reflector, because as I mentioned, you actually spam a lot, and combined with this tanky build on Corki, this is going to be doing a lot of work in terms of against physical damage. So I'm really thinking that you want lifesteal, you go for this. You want more armor, go for this. You want a spell shield or more magic defense, you go for this. So I think those 3 are probably your 3 best options. Aside from that, another option you can go for magic resist if you don't need the spell shield is going to be Maw of Malmortius, which will give you more AD, magic resist, and of course the lifeline, which gives you a magic damage shield. So I'm thinking that the top 3 options probably is going to be Maw, Crystalline Reflector, and Banshee's Veil, and then followed by, if you need lifesteal, the Hextech Gunblade. Now Bloodthirster doesn't work on him because, as I said, you do 80% magic damage, so the physical vamp isn't actually really going to help you because you only do 20% physical damage. Same goes for something like Blade of the Rune King. Now what I've seen a lot of pro players build in the Icon series, which I don't really personally like, is actually going for Solari Charge Blade. Now I get what you're going for, because Solari Charge Blade, you can proc it a lot with Corki because of his ultimate. You can proc the Sunburst / the Radiance, whatever you want to call it. However, I really think that getting yourself like 25% crit in your total build, to me, doesn't really quite make sense, because normally a crit you need to get at least 75% or at least 50%. Like 25% crit is way too RNG to really be good, in my opinion at least. But a lot of pro players do go for Slurry Charge Blade, so I assume it must be a relatively good option. But personally, if I'm going for this build, I'd much rather go for something tanky, like what I mentioned, like the Crystalline Reflector, the Banshee's Veil, etc, etc. But yeah, so that's basically it for Corki's build. Now you go for Conqueror for your rune, for a Keystone rune, because obviously Conqueror is really the only rune that Corki can take. You can't take Lethal Tempo or anything like that, so Conqueror just makes the most sense, gives you the most damage. Triumph, really, because as I said, Hunter Vampirism won't benefit you because you will gain physical vamp and you mainly do magic damage, so that doesn't quite work. So Triumph really is the best. You just gain a little bit of health when you get kills, and also, or takedowns rather, and also deal more damage to low HP enemies. Then I like to go for Hunter Titan, because sometimes when you're split pushing, you sort of get caught out by CC, and this can save you quite a number of times if you really think about it. And lastly, you go for Demolish. Now this is a bit controversial because you kind of need mana flow banned in this build for Corki to actually have mana to spam spells. However, I feel Demolish just has so much value in this build. Like, it scales off 25% max health. As we mentioned, from these 3 items, you already get like 1k plus max health. So this Demolish is going to do so much work. You'll see in the gameplay right after this. But you can take a tower in like 3 seconds in like the later stages of the game after you get like these 3 items off the Demolish proc. So of course, for the spells, you generally go for Flash, no need to explain that, and Exhaust, because normally when you're split pushing, you will actually run into times where people respond to a split push, and the Exhaust really helps you out a lot. So anyways, with all that finally out of the way, long build explanation on that one, we can finally jump into the gameplay itself. Alright, so here we have the gameplay itself. So the first thing I'm going to be discussing at the very beginning of the gameplay is why I really think this build isn't actually very good for solo queue. Now, the real reason it's not good for solo queue is actually really obvious. It's because you gotta rely on the Hullbreaker and you're relying on split pushing. So split pushing is something really hard to do in solo queue because to split push successfully, your team has to create pressure on the opposite side or at least in the middle somewhere else in the map such that the enemy team has to respond, and for that to happen in solo queue, for you to execute a split push is not always very easy because your teammates have very little coordination compared to a pro team. So that's the first real reason it's really hard to execute in solo queue, because you rely on the Hullbreaker. Now this applies for any Hullbreaker build on any champion, not just Corki. But yeah, and also, especially since you're doing it on Corki and not something like a Camille, Fiora, or a Nasus, you're more likely to have people not cooperating with you, something like that. So yeah, and the second reason is, there are legitimately a ton of people who don't actually understand how Hullbreaker works, and they're going to be walking close to you and they're going to be deactivating the Hullbreaker, and that basically means you have about half an item. Now, it's not like a useless item if the passive is deactivated, because you still get the health and you still get the AD, but of course the main part of Hullbreaker is from its passive, so you really are losing a huge chunk of what you bought if that happens. So thankfully in this game, I actually lane swapped with the Riven after a while, and she actually cooperated with me because she did understand how Hullbreaker worked, and she was cooperative even though she was a complete stranger. But that's not gonna happen in every match, so you could land into some problems there. So in the next up, I'm going to discuss what exactly you want to do with Corki Hullbreaker and why it is good. So, most traditional Hullbreaker champions, what they like to do is they like to be split pushing when objectives are up. So for example, if there's a dragon up and everybody's at the dragon fight, they like to go to the Rift Herald lane or the Baron lane, and they like to split push over there when the dragon is up. Likewise, when Baron is up, for example, and the teams are contesting Baron, they like to go to the Dragon lane and try to split push there. However, the main strength of Corki, aside from, of course, the split pushing capabilities with this build, is his package. So what you want to do with Corki is basically you want to actually use your package in team fights and not actually split push when objectives are up. So because of that, the split pushing power is a little bit nullified, but not by a huge amount. Like split pushing when objectives aren't up still kind of works, so it's not like all is lost. And yeah. So something else you might realize here is, if you notice, I'm playing Corki bot as an ADC. I'm not playing Corki mid like what the pro players do in Icons. And all I will say is that it really doesn't affect the quality of the gameplay for this particular video. And the reason I say that is because the first 5 minutes of the game is pretty much played the same. So basically, Corki mid or Corki bot, or even Corki top for that matter, is going to be laning normally for the first 5 minutes, because you only get Hullbreaker around the 4-minute something or 5-minute mark of the game, depending on how well you farmed and if you got any kills. So you're only going to get Hullbreaker around, like, we're gonna say 5 minutes. So basically you get Hullbreaker at 5 minutes, you take package and you go to either Herald or Dragon, whichever one is being contested, you team fight there, and after the team fight at Herald or Dragon, that's where the Hullbreaker Corki strategy begins. So for the first 5 minutes of the game, you pretty much play Corki normally, as you would Corki mid or Corki ADC, as you would in any other game. So really, after 5 minutes, you will see that I lane swap with Riven and I go top, and I end up split pushing top, I believe, if I remember correctly. So basically, it's the same. Like, the Corki split push strategy is the same whether you play Corki mid or Corki bot, so long as your teammates actually cooperate with you. So anyways, we with all that discussion about why it's not good slash doesn't work, and also how you exactly want to execute it in game, now we can finally move on to talking about the actual gameplay itself after about 4 minutes of discussing all of those. So in this game, honestly, nothing too much is happening yet. We've got ganked by Evelyn like once, and you guys saw Seraphine die from that. Here they're going for a full-on engage. Seraphine looks like she's about to die again. Does get off the ultimate before she dies, and Karma is really low. So I'm going in to try to trade the kill onto the Karma, which I do, but the Caitlyn does manage to barrier and trade the kill onto me after that. So 2 for 1 overall, not too good. But yeah, Corki is not the best early game. Whichever build you go, Corki is not the best early game. So Corki does need some time to scale at least a little bit. So here you see I've got the Hull Breaker at 4 minutes and 45 seconds roughly. I pick up my package because we're going to be having an objective spawn within the next 10 seconds, whether be it Dragon or Herald. So this is what I'm talking about. You get Hull Breaker and you get your package at roughly the same time, and you're going to be using that package to rotate for an objective. So this pretty much utilizes both Corki's strengths in teamfights as well as Corki's split push capabilities with the Hull Breaker build slash tanky build, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, so of course before we take an objective, the first thing we want to do is of course push out. Now here, Evelyn actually created a lot of pressure on me by using her charm, so I actually do have to use my package defensively, but Seraphine does root her onto the package itself. So actually we managed to chunk Evelyn to 1/4 health just off the package, which she will of course be able to restore a decent amount of the health she lost with her passive. So we do know that she's not actually as low as we've seen her. Something very deceptive about Evelyn. Now here Zed goes all in. I'm going over the wall to try to finish off the kill onto Karma, which I do. Akali does come in, but Akali is pretty low, as you guys can see. She flashes out, and we're going to be going back onto the Dragon to try to secure that Dragon. Garen is coming in, actually, and Smite left the Dragon at 2 HP, but we do manage to secure it. And we also get the kill on the Evelyn, who obviously was trying to come in for that steal. So we do actually pick up the Dragon, as well as I think like 2 kills. And we are doing really well. So here we have 3 and 1 now as Corki. So we're of course getting boots and gonna build toward getting Black Cleaver. So here there is the Rift Herald that's up. So I'm not actually going top here. I'm actually going bot because I expect everybody to go to Rift Herald, which will be at the other opposite side of the map. So it does make sense that I'm going bot here. Unfortunately for me, Garen, who also has rushed Hullbreaker first item, has the same idea. So Garen is in the vicinity, so is Karma, and if you can see over there, Caitlyn is pulling up as well to force the first tower. So here, I'm gonna have to flash so that the chains from Karma don't connect, because if they do, I'm gonna die to those 3 people. So the strategy doesn't quite work out. But since we managed to draw 3 people here with only 2 of us here, our team should have a numbers advantage at the Rift Herald and be able to possibly get the Rift Herald. As you guys can see, we did manage to steal the Rift Herald and also get the kill on the Evelyn. So now here, if you take a look at the map, we can see 4 people are mid. So the only person we don't we can see 3 people are mid, sorry, and the other 2 people are dead. So there is nobody who can actually stop us split pushing here. So here, we can still see the enemy bot lane mid. We don't quite know where the Garen is, but here you see the Demolish proc pretty much takes out 1/3 of the tower's HP, and we're doing as much damage to the tower as we can to try to get down that tower before our minions die. And you can see that the minion is so tanky, the next wave comes in and we do manage to destroy that tower. Now that's the power of the Hullbreaker. Of course we do know that that is what it does. So anyways, just for the sake of showing how the Corki Hullbreaker kind of works, I'm actually going to do a tower count about how many we take. So basically we essentially almost solo took that 1 tower, so that's the count at 1. So, if you notice, my package has spawned, but I'm pretty much just ignoring it, because using our package in a non-team fight setting, it's pretty much a waste of the package. Like, at most, you get a pick or 2, but the package has so much higher impact in a Dragon or a Herald fight that you really want to save it for the Dragon or Herald fight. So here on the way to lane, I actually typed in chat to Ribbon that I wanted to take over top and to ask her to go bot instead, and she did actually acknowledge that. She pinged she's going bot, so I give her the thumbs up. So I was really afraid that in solo queue this wouldn't quite work out, but it did actually work out. The only issue here is that, as you guys can see, Vi is in my lane, and Zed is also in the area as well. Enemies are also in the area, so I can't do any split pushing for now. And also Vi is kind of here, kind of cramping my style, preventing my Hullbreaker from working, so that ain't it. Seraphine has shown up as well, so this looks like Riven is now kind of being the split pusher, and there's sort of like a mini skirmish kind of set to break out around here. Now, of course, the only issue is that I'm always running out of mana, so I'm going to eat any fruit that I can find, pretty much even if I'm at full health at any time to, of course, get the mana restore. So now, looks like that skirmish has transitioned from the top lane to the mid lane. As you guys can see, Caitlyn is on her way to the mid lane. Seraphine out goes through onto Karma and Akali. And here I'm left alone to my own devices to take the top tower. So here, Demolish proc, boom, does about 1k HP. Garen shows up to the party. Here, tower count we've taken is at 2. So now here you see the tanky Corki. I exhaust the Garen. I'm shredding him with the Black Cleaver, which of course doesn't shred him for a lot of magic. Doesn't shred him for any magic resist, but still kind of shreds him. And here you guys can see that we actually 1v1 the Garen. Now, if we weren't the tanky Corki build, we would have easily died to the Garen there. But the tanky Corki, of course, comes in clutch. And we actually managed to take down the Garen with Hullbreaker and with the Black Cleaver. Alright, so as you guys can see, Corki is not to be trifled with in the side lane. You can't 1v1 the Corki that easily. So yeah, so this really shows off Corki split pushing, getting 2 towers, shows off Corki actually getting the kill onto the Garen. Now here, I take the package even though there isn't an objective spawn, because I can sense that a team fight is going to break out. Now I can already see Akali has engaged, so team fight is already kind of breaking out. So I want to use the package for the team fight. I'm not heading straight on over there, because what I'm planning to do here is actually to take the blue buff so I don't run out of mana so quickly. As you guys can see, taking the blue buff already puts me at about 2/3 mana. So here the fight is sort of still ongoing. Dragon is spawning. My package is still going to last for quite a while, so I might even be able to use it for Dragon or Rift Herald, which I can see is already coming up. So I didn't really just take it like, you know, went like 3 minutes from objective spawn or anything. Like I can still use it at objective if I need to, but here I'm sort of trying to see if I can get off any split pushing. I see Akali over there, and I try to cut off her escape using my package. I'm gonna Valkyrie in. I hit her at the only real spot she could be at. So here I'm gonna flash over, auto attack, but Akali does stasis. I stasis in return, and I have the Hullbreaker, so I'm going to be pretty tanky. I'm pretty much 2v1 here. I exhaust the Caitlyn, and I'm hightailing it away. I managed to waste so much time that my team was able to actually respawn. I get myself a Triumph proc there off that kill from my team. I get myself another Triumph proc there off the kill from my team, and I'm going to just clear up this wave before I actually just back and go back to base. So you can see how tanky the tanky Corki build really is. Like, look at that. I tanked the entire damage of Karma and Riven for a good couple of seconds as an ADC, being Corki. Of course, as we mentioned, that's only because of the tanky build, but look at how tanky he is. Like, you would have died there as normal Corki like twice over. But with the tanky Corki, you can just survive so long that your team can actually rotate all the way over from, like, I don't know where they were. I think there was like in middle of mid lane, or like even in the like other side of the jungle, and they were able to rotate over to back me up and actually allow me to escape and turn the situation around. So here we actually pick up the Rift Herald, and we really got it off the pick, of course, that we got from that, you know, tankiness and running away, so called. So here we're gonna of course build toward our Divine Thunder, of course picking up the Sheet first to proc the Spellblade more easily. So here, Garen split pushing. I see Riven going over to the top lane to respond to Garen. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go over to the bot lane and see if I can get any split pushing done in the bot lane. So here, Zed tried to 1v1 Caitlyn. They both come out of it at basically about the same amount of HP. And we can see a huge fight happening in mid. So here, I am duoing the Seraphine, so I'm telling Seraphine to try to threaten mid a little bit and try to create a little bit of pressure to actually allow us to split push bot. So here you guys can see that I'm going to try to get this bot tower. So this is going to be a little bit challenging because Evelyn is in the area. She has the charm on. She does manage to charm me, but doesn't really do that much work for her. And here I am managed to actually take the tower without even the Demolish proc. So here, that's the third tower we've taken, and here Akali goes in. I exhaust her and shred her with the Gatling gun, and then kill her. So you guys can see Corki with the tanky build is still pretty strong. Like, just because you have Hullbreaker doesn't mean you don't want to group up with your team all the time. Like here, there I had to stay close to my Seraphine to protect her. So obviously I don't get the extra defenses from the Hullbreaker, but I still do get the buffs from the Seraphine. I also, you know, am able to better defend her compared to like staying far away, which doesn't really make that much sense if you really think about it. So here I'm just going to restore my mana. And here I'm at the base relearn because I'm trying to decide what to buy. And I decided to go for the GA first because I wasn't really sure what other item to get. And really, even you go GA second last item, you can't really go too wrong with getting a GA in my opinion. So here, if you notice, normally this is where I take the red buff. But in this case, I actually completely ignore the red buff because I'm going to be split pushing. I'm probably not going to be the best user of the red buff. I honestly think like probably Riven would make better use of the red buff than me because I don't want to be team fighting people. I want to be just split pushing. So here, I remember what happens here. It's a little bit of a boo-boo, but here you can see Garen trying to get in his own split push in, and he has a huge wave. Now here I'm trying to clear out the wave. I see Garen going away, and I actually get baited by the Garen actually walking away. And here I realize I'm kind of dead already because I have a really long lane with no tower. Garen is really just destroying me. I try to flash away, but he's still in range to execute me with his ultimate, and that's exactly what he does. So there, honestly well played by the Garen. I saw him walking away, I was wondering why is he running, so I just decided to clear the minions. Actually, he looped around and actually put himself between me and my tower, and because of that, I really couldn't escape. But looks like my team here is going for the revenge kill on the Garen. Garen does manage to take down the tower though, so he did kind of do his job. Now we're going to have a pretty long chase. Garen's going to be pretty tanky, so here Garen tries to escape, and actually Vi interrupts his blast cone with her Q, which is pretty insane if she did that on purpose. We do actually end up dying there, so now we're like 5-2 and 2. Like KDA on Hullbreaker Corki really isn't important. The value from you comes from getting the towers and getting the package in the team fight. So we've gone like tier 1 outer in top. We've gone tier 1 and tier 2 in bot as well. So we've gotten our team a grand total of 3 towers. So we've pretty much been solely responsible for 3 out of the 5 towers that our team currently has at the moment. And again, we're going to have to go ahead and get ourselves the blue buff so that we don't actually run out of mana. Now here I was actually planning to take the skull, but I see that Riven is in trouble. She's in a 3v1, gets herself a kill already. I'm getting myself over there, trying to blast down the Akali. I do manage to actually snipe her out. I exhaust the Caitlyn to try to do something about the situation. Stasis to try to buy time. I'm in a 3v1 here, trying to waste time for my team to come on over, but I don't actually manage to tank for long enough to actually let my team come over to help me out. So of course, you're obviously nowhere near invincible as a tanky Corki. Like at the end of the day, you still are an ADC. You do have a lot more health and a little bit more defenses from the Hullbreaker than the normal ADC, but at the end of the day, you're not the most tanky champion innately, so you're still going to be taken down quite easily, like in a 2v1 or a 3v1. Like 1v1, you're going to be pretty tanky. Not too many people can take you down in a 1v1 if you ask me. But in like a 2v1 and 3v1, you can't really do that. So here Garen is typical split push move. Elder Dragon has spawned. You can see Seraphine and Vi were originally at the Elder Dragon, but here he's gone for the Zed. Riven has to respond to the Garen, and in comes the Vi and the Seraphine. And Seraphine technically not really, but in comes the Vi as well. So they really pull. He pulls my team away from the Elder Dragon, and obviously the team must be on the Elder Dragon. Seraphine doesn't quite have a ward, I believe, so we can't see what's happening here. We can see it's at half health. Here I'm trying to actually shred the Akali. Akali actually survives on 1 HP again. Here I package across the dragon, and my package actually does pick up the kill onto the Karma, and actually manages to zone the entire enemy team away from the dragon, which allows Vi to actually smite the dragon. Now we can see a 1 HP Akali. We know 1 HP Akali is somewhere inside our jungle. Vi actually shows that she was actually back in the red buff, but Vi doesn't actually quite manage to catch her. I know she's 1 HP, but I'm ignoring that. I'm much more interested in the tower. So here, the tower is really low. I want that tower with the Hullbreaker. No one is around, but unfortunately, I can't 2v1, as I said. So don't pick stupid fights. You may be tanky, but you can't win 2v1. So I'm not going to actually try anything reckless here. But I am, in fact, actually going to take the enemy's red buff, because it's the enemy's red buff. So you always want to deny the enemy. So I'm going to take that red buff. I think I'm going to take the Krugs, maybe. Nope. I don't want to waste too much time here. I can see the enemy team all kind of respawning, walking out of base. I take the enemy's honey fruit, but I'm not going to be too greedy about it. I'm going to just back and buy myself the GA. So now we got a GA, we got an extra level of safety. We can play a little bit more reckless if we want to, but I really don't. I just want to do my job and use my Hullbreaker to get tower kills. We've gotten pretty much 3 full towers already with the Hullbreaker, and we're going to see if we can get ourselves any more. So here, Zed actually took the blue buff, which actually I really needed. Like, Zed doesn't even use mana, but I guess he does get the ability haste and the ultimate haste from it. so it's not the worst in the world. But here, I see a huge fight happening at the bottom side of the map. So what do? Obviously, I'm going to the top side of the map. I have triple cannon. I'm going to split push. So here, we're on to the second tier tower. Here, take a look at that. About 3 seconds, demolished prop tower is gone. That's our 4th tower of the game. So we easily pick up that 4th tower. We see Zed getting into a fight with the Akali and the Karma, so we're going to come over and back him up. Like, remember, you are a split pusher, but if you see your team fighting, you always want to be there to help them out. You are also an ADC, of course, flashing over to get the auto onto the Evelyn to get the kill. Getting our 5th tower using the Hullbreaker minions as well. So now we're kind of getting our 6th tower. Now that's not a full tower, but we're pretty much going to count those 2 towers as 1. So like pretty much 5 full towers at this point we've taken throughout the game out of 8. So as you guys can see, huge work put in by the Hullbreaker Corki. So Hullbreaker Corki is really just all about the split push and getting towers, using our package in teamfights. It really isn't about the KDA. It isn't about the damage. It's really about getting towers, and it's about the objective team fight. So if you take a look at the stats here, you will see that I don't really do the most damage, or I do a decent amount of damage, not a whole lot. But yeah, we're gonna get to the damage momentarily. But yeah, so anyways guys, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and goodbye.